Hello everyone, it is I, Dark Symphony 777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, listen to my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, you like the new dimension? Give me your thoughts. I thought I wanted to try something new. Plus, I recently bought a ring light. I'm testing it out right now. So yeah, that's the thing. So the story I am doing a review of is called Power Surge by Starlet Duck. It is another part of the Super Koopa series. Not Super Koopa, Super Koopaling, because I keep forgetting that Super Koopa is a completely different thing. Yep. So, this story is different. I will kind of say it out right at the beginning because I think because this is probably going to be like a really, really short video. And I'm actually just trying to stretch it out as much as I can, to be honest. This story by itself specifically is the worst. It is probably the worst story on its own. The plot is barely there. The characters aren't really there. The pacing is way too fast. There is just a lot of things wrong with it. But if you take into context what it's trying to set to accomplish, then it kind of works in that one specific context. So what this type of story is, it's called what I call a setup story. I don't know what it's actually called. That's just what I call it. This story is meant to serve a single purpose, and that purpose is to set up something to start to plant even more seeds and kind of get the basis of something that will happen in the future that will be expanded on. In this story's case, it is the whole frost wall thing that's been hinted out in previous videos. Previous stories with Ludwig losing control of his motions and something happening. And this story is a direct consequence of the previous story, Runaway Reptile, where Ludwig goes into the forest, he spots a tree, he wipes it, he sees a carving in the tree of a heart, and Ludwig von Koopa, or Ludwig Vanessa Koopa, ha ha ha. And so he's kind of freaking out. So, what's the plot of this story? The plot is basically simple. Ludwig is having trouble sleeping, and he's losing control of his powers because of it. And so, the other Koopalings are trying to figure out how to get him to sleep, but he keeps having nightmares, and then kind of repeat that until he loses control of himself. And Kamek gets involved and said, "You know what? I need to get you sleep." You just hit me in the head. Yes, that's supposed to make you sleep. All right. And that's literally the entire plot. It's literally just repeating itself of Ludwig awake, slowly losing control of his powers, going to sleep, having a nightmare, repeating. There is like the reappearance of those three delinquents from a previous episode when Ludwig and Lemmy switched bodies. But other than that, that's really getting in terms of plot. It's just that repeating pattern of cycle. Character development, there's not really any. Again, you have to take into context what this story is trying to do, because these types of stories have been done, and usually they do pretty well, depending on what the follow-up is. And as far as I know, what Star told me, the episode, this specific incident is happening, I think she said episode 13, and I haven't reached that episode yet. I'm only going up to episode 8 right now. But once it gets there, we'll see the whole context of everything in terms of the characters and the plot and everything. So there's not really much in the way of characters except for Ludwig. Ludwig has some character development. It's not substantial, but it's enough to really tell that whatever happened in this town called Frostwall really shook him up if he's having to take actual spells to get him to go to sleep easier and whatever significance that the tree with the carving in the previous story did really shook him up. And I like the fact that the author at least tried to hammer that point home, that whatever happened really messed with him really bad. And I thought that was nice. That was a nice little touch. The pacing is way too fast for its own good. Again, in the context it works, but if you take out the context, then it doesn't work. It completely falls apart and just becomes a pile of shit story. Grammar errors, nothing. And that's really it. 5-6 minutes and I'm already done. Would I recommend this story? Honestly, this story, and it's the same with all these types of stories, in my eyes, in my opinion, that seeing the full quality of these stories really relies upon what happens next. So this, like, an example from another example I can think of would be Marineford from One Piece. So basically, there was an entire arc before Marineford called Impel Down, where Luffy, and with the aid of Boa Hancock, goes into the marine prison of Impel Down to save his brother Ace. And and Impel Down's whole existence basically builds up to the events of Marineford. And a lot of people really love Marineford. Now, if you took everything about Impel Down, put it in an isolation, just completely leave out anything about Marineford, anything before it, like Thriller Bark or Enies Lobby or Water 7 or Sabati Apalachico, you would see that Impel Down in isolation is not that good. It's still good. Like, a lot of people really liked Bon Clay coming back. Ivankov was a really good character. Magellan was actually a pretty dang good villain. It's not as good if you take into the context that it sets up Marineford. And Marineford is really good. Like, it's usually by a lot of people saying it's one of the best arcs in manga ever. And that's saying something because, like, when it comes to stuff like what's your favorite arc in a manga / anime, stuff like that, it's very subjective, but a lot of people really say Marineford is one of the best. But again, take Impel Down by itself, and it's not as good. Still good, just not as good. This is the same situation here, but instead of actually being good, you take the context that this is leading to something bigger out of the equation. This story is garbage. Like, there is no redeeming this story if you take it on face value by itself, separated from everything. So that leaves the idea that the quality of this story banks on how good the build-up it's going to be. And honestly, that's really no way for me to accurately say I recommend it or I don't recommend it because of this fact. It is next to impossible. My eyes irritating me. It's next to impossible to gauge the quality without getting the full context. So I'm stuck in a situation where what happens if I don't recommend the story, and then it turns out the whole Frostwall thing turns to be really good. That's kind of egg in my face. So this story is kind of in a limbo of the quality of this story basically comes down to what's the quality of the big thing it's leading to. So, and we still got a lot to go. Like I said, this is episode 6. Apparently the whole Frostwall thing takes place in episode 13. I believe that's what Star said. So I cannot in good conscience recommend or not recommend the story because of that fact. Because this story is just based on the follow up. There's no need to do it. Favorite part? No, nothing really sticks out. And finally, what would I change? Again, just like with recommending the story, it really depends on what it's leading to. So I'm going to leave that as well to the future story. So that is Power Surge Redux. I wanted my final thoughts is I did want to mention this. This version I'm reviewing is the redone version. Star specifically asked me when you get to any story that were redone, do the redone version because she thinks that the quality is much better. I haven't read the original one, so I can't tell for certain. But I'm just going by what she said. She literally told me do the redone version instead of the original. I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's fair. Most of the time, if a story it has like a redone version of it, more often than not, I'm probably going to do the redone version too as the review. So like I did it with Darkness Arises. Darkness Arises, the version I reviewed was a redone version. So that's fine. This has been Dark Symphony 777, a very short review. I will see you next time, and cut.